Hi, and welcome back to my channel again. My name is Teresa, and today I'm going to be chatting a bit about a challenge I've set myself, which is to read all the unread books, or most of the unread books I have on my shelf. I'm just going to chat a bit about this and a bit about my progress so far this year. I'm not going to do like monthly update videos or anything on it because I think it'll be a bit repetitive with my wrap up. So I'll just include a little bit at the end of that, just saying this is my progress I've made. Okay, so got my laptop just with some details I need to try and remember. Um, but yeah, this is just an introduction to it, and so you know what I'm talking about if I mention it in my wrap up. I think I'll probably do like a mid-year update and end of the year definitely, just my progress and how it's going. But if you are interested in monthly updates, on my Instagram, link in the description, there I do in my highlights, my 2020 TBR challenge highlight, will have a monthly update of what I've read and what I've unhauled and such, and how many books I've got left on it. Okay, so just to start, I decided to do this challenge because my pile of unread books has been it's been around 50 books for a good couple of years, I think. Um, and the books have changed a bit. A lot of them hadn't, to be honest. And 50 books is a lot of books to own and to have not read, especially considering so many of them have been there since I originally decided to add up how many I had a couple of years ago. So I decided I was just gonna actually, instead of just saying, oh yeah, I want to read more of these books, I'd force myself to do it and make it into a challenge and put it on Instagram to try and encourage myself, like force myself to do it to keep up with that. So far it's been working really, really well. I'll get into that a bit more, but just to say, I started off with 52 unread books on my shelf. And my goal was to, sorry, laptop going off, my goal is to half this number, so 26 at most, because really, I tend to read less than 50 books a year, so getting rid of all of them it's not plausible, it doesn't seem possible to me. And obviously I also want to read new releases, buy new books, things like that. And a lot of the books on my shelf were the first book in a series. That's part of the reason I hadn't read them, is because I felt like I'd have to buy the rest of the series, which I do not, because libraries exist, as I had completely forgotten for some reason. So I thought halving it seemed like a reasonable aim. And also, whenever I buy a book, I add it onto that list. So if I'm sitting at 40 books and I buy another two, then it goes back up to 42. So it's also kind of forced myself to not buy more books, because then I'm just undoing my own progress. This has been a very rambly start to the video. I'm trying to say a bunch of different things, but I'm like all over the place. Another reason I wanted to do it is because my reading tastes, I think I mentioned in my booktube newbie tag, have been changing a lot over the last year, and a lot of the books on my shelf I'm just actually not that interested in compared to what I was when I bought them. And even then, some of what I bought was just, I saw them on Bookstagram and other people were talking about them, things like that. So I want to make room for the books I'm definitely interested in, and also just get some of these read and gone. And whether that's unhauled or just into the mess of my shelf. Either way, just I don't have to think about them and feel guilty about them when I buy more books. So, just see if I've got anything else I need to say. Okay, so I think that's all I kind of want to say. If anyone has questions about it, please let me know. But I don't think they really are. So I think I'll talk about my progress in each month, because as I think I said earlier, I've made some pretty good progress. I'm pretty happy about, excited about. So, as I said, I started off the year with 52 unread books, which is quite a lot. And by the end of January, I was down to 45. So that's 7 books read, unhauled, whatever, at least. But actually acquired 4 books during January. I bought 3 and I got 1 as a late Christmas present. So it's like saying 11 books read and unhauled, but not quite. So yes, I read 6 books off my TBR in January. These were The Distributable History of Frankie Lando Banks, Miss Peregrine's 3 books, Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Rigg, that is. One of Us Next, which I also bought that month, by Karen M. McManus, and then Beautiful Creatures by Cami Garcia and Margaret Stoll. So those were my 6 books I read in January that had come from my TBR, which is already impressive. But then I also unhauled 5 books. I unhauled a book called Tempest by Julie Cross. I've not seen it anywhere online, but I found it in a charity shop very cheap, and I got it, and it sat on my shelf for ages, and I never read it. I don't think I'm that interested in it, so unhaul it was. I'd show you it, but it's gone. I also unhauled The Madman's Daughter by Megan Shepherd. This is another one I found cheap. I was like, that's kind of interesting, then never read, so it's also gone. Finally, I also unhauled the entire Beautiful Creature series, but the only ones that counted, since I'd already read this one, was the next 3 books, which are called Beautiful Darkness, Beautiful Chaos, and Beautiful Redemption. They all went bye-bye, and my challenge was quite successful because of this. So that's kind of my progress in January, was reading a good amount of books, but also unhauling a really good amount of books. I just really struggle with unhauls, and I don't think I'd ever unhauled a book I hadn't read before, because I felt like I always had to give it a chance because I'd bought it. But I just tried to be a bit honest with myself, and really, would I rather be reading these books or reading one of the books from my TBR, which is just filled with books that I actually really, really want to read, but I'm trying to hold myself out on until I get my TBR of owned books under control. So that was January. Just gonna get February up on my laptop. So February, I started my month with 45 unread books and ended it with 38. Again, quite an impressive number, if I do say so myself. Particularly because in February I didn't acquire any new books, so no books hauled in February. Quite proud of myself for that. I read 4 books in February. I've just noticed I've forgotten to update that on my graphic, so oops. But as you will have seen if you've seen my wrap-up video, I read Escaping from Houdini by Carrie Maniscalco. I also read Capturing the Devil by Carrie Maniscalco, and 5 Dark Fates by Kendar Blake, and oh yes, and Enchanté by Gita Trellis. These books actually hadn't been on my TBR that long, other than Escaping from Houdini, because the other 3 books I bought in January. So, or I got Enchanté as a gift. The other ones I got in January. So that means I read all the books I've got this year, which is fun. I also unhauled some books, which is Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell, this book has been on my shelf for a very long time, and I don't think I'm ever really going to read it. Like, there's been nothing stopping me from reading this for the past 4 years or whatever. It's however long it's been on my shelf. I've just got it now because I saw it on Instagram or something. But yeah, I'm not that interested in it. I read Rainbow Rowell's other book, Fangirl, and I wasn't that big a fan of it either. Like, it wasn't that interesting for me. All that I cared about really was the Carry On plot within that, and that's before I'd read Carry On or anything. But I do really like Carry On. I have liked that part of Rainbow Rowell's writing, but I just found Fangirl quite boring, and I thought I'd probably also find this quite boring. Not to mention the racism in it. So, didn't really want that anymore. Next was The Boy Most Likely To by Huntley Fitzpatrick. This is another one I've had on my shelf for a while. There's been nothing stopping me from reading, but I never read it. There's like it's a spin-off to another book, which I have read, and I think I did like, but I wasn't blown away with, so I wasn't desperate to read this. It's just maybe seeing, linked characters and seeing how they're doing. But I didn't think I'd get around to that soon. I wasn't that interested in it, so it's been on hold. I also unhauled Shadowhunters and Downworlders. It's a collection of essays based around the Mortal Instruments series, and I didn't know what it was when I bought it. I was just obsessed with Cassandra Clare's books, and then I got it and I was disappointed and I didn't really want to read it, and that's not changed. And now I'm even less interested because I'm not that big a fan of Cassandra Clare's books anymore. I was really into them for a good while, but now there's nostalgia there, but there's things I much prefer. So this book also got on hold. So that was my 3 books on hold, 4 books read. So my new total is 38. So that's what I'm going to March with. That's where I am right now. And I'm pretty excited about that. I'm pretty happy with that. I didn't read as much off my TBR as I wanted to in February, but that's purely because, as I said in my wrap-up video, I had a Kindle Unlimited subscription I wanted to use while I still had it, and also just reading like the novella for Capturing the Devil and Escaping from Houdini by Carrie Maniscalco, and reading my French book for my class, things like that. I mean, I did read a lot in February, but I didn't read much off my TBR. I'm hoping for more in March, but we'll see. I'm just about to start Cinder, which has been on my shelf for a very long time, but the thing is, if I read Cinder and the entire series, it only counts as one book, because that's the only book I own. The other ones I'd be getting from the library. So although I'd be reading a lot, it would say it'd still be like one book read really off my TBR, so that would be annoying, and that's going to slow my progress a lot, which is why I only set my goal as 26. But I'm actually really close to that goal, I've realised. I'm only 12 away. I could do that in a couple months at the rate I'm going. So we'll see. Maybe that will happen, and maybe I'll just completely decimate my TBR, and that would be a great day. But in the meantime, I'm just gonna end this video here. I'll have updates in my wrap-up videos just at the end on this challenge, and also on my Instagram. I was also considering making like a reading challenge over summer if anyone's interested in that, and also tackling their TBRs. If you are, let me know. Also, if anyone wants to host it with me, let me know, because I don't know if I'd want to do it on my own. But yes, I'm gonna end this here. Hope to see you again with another video soon. Bye!